Do not use Coke cans. What's going on YouTube? This is square tubing I'm using for a project. Often projects require telescoping tube where you need one square tubing to slide inside another one. The problem is there's a weld seam just inside of most square tubing. Now you can buy seamless square tubing that doesn't have the weld. It's a lot more harder to find and it's a lot more expensive. So if you're getting your metal from a scrapyard, most likely you're not gonna find it. So what you can do is you can remove that weld seam from that outside tube. Jason from Fireball Tool has a good video on how to remove that weld. So go check that video out. I'll put a link right here. But if you don't want to mess with that, a way to get around it is to weld two pieces of angle iron together as your outside tube. This is my inner tube and it's just a 3x3 square tube. This, however, is my outside tube. It's just two pieces of angle iron that I've welded together to allow for the 3x3 square tubing to slide nicely inside of it. See? Nice and smooth. One of the critical things you need to make sure and maintain though is the correct spacing from your inside square tube and the two pieces of angle iron that you weld together. I initially used a Coke can that I cut up into little strips and put around the outside of the inner tube, square tubing, to create the spacing. I made sure to wrap it all the way around all four sides on the front and the back so it's evenly spaced through the length of your angle iron. However, do not use Coke cans. This ain't even Coke, it's Coke Deer. What ended up happening was when I tacked the two pieces of angle iron together, let me go get a piece, like this, the two welds ended up causing weld distortion and clamping down on the pieces of Coke can. And what ended up happening was it was so tightly pinched down on that inside tube that I couldn't get the two tubes apart. I used sledgehammer. I thought through ways of using a hydraulic press to try to get it out. And what I ended up doing was cutting the full length of the weld and just knocking it out and restarting. If you hit that like button, I'll show you an awkward video of me dancing. After doing that, I did a little bit of research, and what I found was you can typically use MIG wire 0.35 diameter as a good spacing on one side. So MIG wire on the top of your inside square tubing and MIG wire on the side of your square tubing, just to allow for weld distortion to pull that outside angle iron closer to that tubing, but not so much that it's gonna pinch down on it. So what I did was tack the two pieces of angle iron with that MIG wire spacing in there. As soon as I tacked it, I removed that square tubing just to make sure that I didn't pinch down on that wire like I did with the Coke cans. And then I welded the two pieces of angle iron completely out, which you can see here. So once I did that, I still got interference. So the tube would not slide all the way through. There was a portion of it that was catching. I did think that it was due to the weld slag that went inside the joint. But as you can kind of see here, there's a lot of space because of the radius that inside tube has. And so none of that was really interfering. Well, what had happened was the center of my angle irons, the weld had pinched it down just enough, even after using that weld wire, that it caused interference. So what I ended up having to do was take my inside square tubing and grind and sand it down so it would slide nice and easy inside my two pieces of angle iron that I welded together. So after a little bit of work, I got it to where it would slide through and it's nice and tight for the project that I'm currently working on. If you ever encountered this issue, but you didn't want to deal with the weld seam, let me know what your creative solution is and we'll share it with others. Save some people some time. If you like what you see and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button.